Hello, I'm Kirk Hanson. I'm Executive Director of the Markkula Center for Applied Ethics at Santa Clara University. And I'm here today with Mike Kelly, a member of our advisory board at the center, but an investment banker who gave a wonderful speech today on the how and why of the financial collapse that we've experienced over the last 3 years. Mike has an extraordinary background, started out as a CPA and a partner at Touche Ross, worked as an executive at Granger Associates, and then at Broadview International, created an international technology investment bank, which was a major player. He today is CEO of Kinsale Associates, which is a merchant banking firm. Mike, thanks for coming today and for talking with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, in this whole financial meltdown of the last few years, I think a lot of people were amazed that some institutions loaned money to people that they knew at the outset could not pay it back. How is that good finance? How is that good for the companies that they were a part of? Why would they even think about doing such a thing?
Well, the focus at the beginning was that it was a good product. It allowed, in terms of mortgage-backed securities, it allowed a certain number of people to enjoy the American dream of having a home. It soon became a situation that most of these investment banks were looking for a higher return on equity. And so there was lots of pressure from the staff standpoint to generate higher and higher returns so that they could get a higher and higher percentage in terms of their compensation. So it was greed, and the individual really looked at, they would be gone by the time these things would be discovered, so there shouldn't be a problem. And that basic philosophy permeated through the entire investment banking community. No matter what company it was, that was the philosophy.
Mm-hmm. It seems strange that they would put the firms that they worked for at risk, and even the whole economy at risk, as it turned out, that these decisions had that kind of impact. What was it that led them to think that it was worth doing that? Or maybe what was it that led them to think that somehow they had to make these fabulous returns, both in the Countrywides and other firms that directly made the loans, but also in the investment banks that managed the securities that came from those loans?
The first level was that individuals in investment banks were looking for absolute wealth. Not relative to how the economy is doing, but they wanted to achieve absolute wealth beyond proportion. And to do that, what they soon realized is that since these investment banks have changed from partnerships to corporations, the focus of the individuals wasn't on each other, but it was on themselves. And so with that focus on themselves, there was no feeling that they were hurting the company. They didn't value the company's reputation. Their most important thing was to achieve a certain amount of absolute wealth, and this was the way to do it.
How did that change come about, that it shifted from these great firms, many of them partnerships, the Goldman Sachses and others, that became instead focused on just specific individuals, and they often hopped company to company, right, with innovative financial products and so on?
Yeah, early on, we realized that we had the best wealth creation nation in the world. The statistics show that. But what we needed to do is get ready for global competition. Partnerships were a series of individuals worried about their personal net worths. Going to a corporate form allowed them to transfer this personal liability into a corporate limited liability, and so with that the transfer, then the focus was on the individual, and the most important thing was making the most money in a short period of time.
There was no one individual who would suffer if the whole thing collapsed, so that risk was offloaded.
Right. And it really came also about because when we went from Main Street as a customer to only working with hedge funds and only working with private equity companies, the staff realized how much they were making. So from an absolute standpoint, they now felt that they should be able to make that type of money. So the absolute realm kind of looked at their clients and themselves. So our clients went from individual people on the street making a minimum or medium wage to people that were also making $20 and $30 million a year, and that allowed them to think of it as okay if they could make 20 or 30 million, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to use innovative products, continuing to innovate, to compete. Innovation led to more innovation, and therefore no one put risk into this factor. So there is no risk-adjusted rate of return. It's all based on the money they make, and they usually try to achieve 30 to 40% compensation of the amount that they bring in.
It's amazing to see a culture go through that shift. Those who study organizational culture will be fascinated about how amongst a group of people it became normal to make $20 to $30 million a year and to feel that they were somehow failing if they made anything less than that.
Well, it is the same situation where the people who built the investment banking community, the partners, for 40 and 50 years never made that type of money, and their staff never made that type of money. And most of them feel very jealous of the younger partners that when they took over, they switched it to being a corporation, and they became infinitely wealthy in front of them. And the industry from there took off, that if the partners can make that much money, I can make that much money, and I want to do it, and I want to do it now.
Greed and jealousy.
Absolutely.
What else is there that's not that is timeless? Have we got it right with the Dodd-Frank Act? This is supposed to have dealt with many of the structural things and the incentives that led to these excesses. Is the Dodd-Frank Act and its provisions going to prevent this in the future?
It's very interesting that you mention that, because the Dodd-Frank bill came out, and we still have the committee working on the overall cause of the problem, and we have legislation already fixing the problem. So my belief is that we're a ways away from really understanding what the problem really was, and with not understanding the problem, we're going to go through a period here of being very frustrated. There's more risk moving into the market, and with that more risk, we're going to have other bubbles.
The perception is that culture of $20 and $30 million paychecks has not changed.
No, it has not changed, but the form has changed. Maybe trying to put it in the form of stock, trying to put it in the form of performance based on some other clawback provisions. So people are trying to figure out how to be able to evaluate a good performance one year and poor performance the following year. How do you equalize those?
Final question. Some observers have said we have a financial bubble and meltdown like this every 20 years. Are we going to look at another one 20 years from now and say, why didn't we learn our lessons in the last 3 or 4 years here?
Yes, that's what this whole story ends up to be, is that we have a great financial system where we understand the wealth that it's created, and that wealth, as it gets interpreted in our society, and the growth in the emerging countries, they're going to go through the same thing that we're going through. So not only are the emerging countries going to have these problems, we ourselves will continue until we look at an overall solution. That entails transparency, that entails personal responsibility for your actions.
So you're looking forward to a bubble that includes the Chinese and the Indians and others next time, not just the Americans and Europeans.
Yes, that'll be the next one.
With that happy thought, let me thank Mike Kelly for being with us and invite you to look at the Markkula Center website for additional information on the financial crisis and on other issues of business ethics. That's at www.scu.edu/ethics. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk.